So here we are at Heathrow Airport under COVID rules, meaning we have to wear a mask in all public areas. As you can see, it's not too busy, but weather is closing in, so delays are still possible. The flight to Keflavik is about 3.5 hours, so sit back and see you on the other side. Goodbye, rainy England. And hello, sunny Greece. Well, we're down and a little ahead of schedule. The stories of big delays and testing seem to have been overstated because we walked straight through and are already on our way in the taxi to the east side of the island and Agafimia. Agafimia is a bustling little harbour town and seems to be the primary changeover spot for charter companies, as we're one of 4 I've seen already. And this is Isabella, a 39-foot Bavaria cruiser we have for the week. Let's take a look down below. She's really very spacious, with 3 large double cabins, 2 heads and a considerable saloon area. I think we're going to be very comfortable. Good morning, day 2 and our first trip out, which is supposed to be a short 5-mile trip down to Sami, where we can spend the day getting to know the yacht and playing around in the bay before our real first sail tomorrow. Unfortunately, before we arrived, it seemed to have been agreed that we hit the first sail straight away, giving us more time to explore later in the week. So sail number 1 is this 20-mile slog straight up the channel to Ithaca on Lefkada. Let's see how Sam takes that. It was at this point we decided to focus on the sailing. So what happened when we left the video to one side? Well, after getting used to the yacht, we spent some considerable time beating into the wind that was blowing down the channel, which was squirrely to say the least. But once we got past the entrance of the channel, we caught that westerly and barreled along on a beam all the way to Ithaca. We averaged around 6.5 knots and at one point even hit 7.3. Good morning from sunny Ithaca. So where are we off today? Well, there's a lovely little marina in Vathi on Meganissi, the next island over. So our plan is to head up north, stop off in a little bay in Tilia, I think it's called, before heading east into Vathi itself. Unfortunately, yesterday I noticed a tear in the headsail, so we'll need to change it this morning before we leave. Still, it's all experience. Interestingly, I think I got the best job, aligning the luff tape into the jib feeder. Those genoas look heavy. The sail gods are with us this morning. We're on a broad reach heading straight out into the bay. And then another broad reach straight up the channel all the way to the island.
Are you enjoying yourself today?
While we stop for lunch, I'm going to try one of those action shots. Okay, let's pretend that didn't happen. After our swim and a spot of lunch, we headed off to our mooring in Vathi. Unfortunately, the wind had dropped from a respectable 8 knots to about 2, so after a concerted effort to sail, we gave up and headed into our berth for the evening. Vathi is a beautiful little inlet with 2 small marinas. This one, which is attached to a small taverna called Canago or Canagio and is just outside the town, and this one with the quayside right in the town centre. Personally, I prefer the one outside town, even if it does have a hippie commune vibe thing going on. Good morning on day 4, and it's a little bay hopping before we return back to Vathi. We are currently motoring because there's absolutely no wind, heading for the numerous bays that surround the top of Meganissi. I suspect we'll drop anchor at the first bay with space and not return until this evening, but then who said sailing had to be hard work? Good morning on day 5, and we're off to the island of Kalamos. The plan is to head over to the top of the island and find somewhere to lunch before heading down the east coast and into the little harbour of Kalamos. After motoring over the top of Meganissi, we catch a light southerly and take a leisurely 2-hour sail in calm waters. Last year is becoming a distant memory. After lunch, we resumed our journey to Kalamos and had a great start until we passed the coastal town of Meganissi on the mainland of Greece, where we hit a weather hole and everything died.
Squirrely, I think is the phrase.
Squirrely.
We persevered for a while, but eventually gave up and motor sailed round the headland where we were hoping to pick up a nice southerly.
We doing what? Oh, nuts! World breaking!
As suspected, the wind did pick up and we close hauled all the way into port. Kalamos is an idyllic place, seemingly untouched by the world, and the taverna on the water's edge is just perfect to enjoy the catch of the day. Sam and I agree, we think this is the best stop so far, but it's difficult to pick as it has all been so perfect. Good morning on day 6 and a spot of breakfast ashore before we start the last big sail of the holiday. We've already picked a bay for lunch, then we'll be heading over to another port called Bathy, but this one is on Ithaca. We're beginning to realise the wind is often dead in the mornings, so we're motoring down to the bay, but it looks like a strong westerly this afternoon, so an exciting sail is on the cards for the final leg to Ithaca. Now where's that bay, and cue the music. After much swearing at the mainsail, which initially refused to come out of the mast while we were on collision course off the rocks of Kalamos, we finally set sail on a steady beam and seemed to increase speed with every tweak of the sails. Sam clocked over 7 knots on the instruments and I later recorded 8.4 on the logger. After the best sail so far, we'd been advised to motor the last stage as the wind can be very unpredictable over the land and there can be a lot of traffic at times. This took about 20 minutes, but we were safely tucked up in our berth at 5 o'clock when the wind started to pick up. Vatty 2, as we came to call it, also has two marinas, and we were tucked away in the one on the west of the bay. This turned out to be a good decision, as this evening the wind was coming down the channel and hitting the boats in the other marina bow on. Tonight we picked our taverna by view, and the fish turned out to be amazing. We'll definitely remember to take the video next time for these experiences. Day 7 and the final sail of our holiday as we head back to Egefimia. There is already no wind, so we know we'll be motoring to our last bay for lunch, but we understand it is supposed to pick up this afternoon and we could have some interesting winds across to Kefalonia. One quick tip from last night's mooring: if you get a choice, don't moor next to a gin palace with a large transform. It acts like a hand and slaps the water all night. The bigger the boat, the larger the slaps. Now, where's that bay? It looks like the mania is finally beginning to set in. After struggling yet again with the mainsail, I discover a peg strategically jammed under one of the line housings. This keeps catching the furling line, stopping the mainsail from coming out. Quick fix, and then the fun begins. We finally moor up for the last time and head in for dinner, with thoughts turning to the trip home and back to some form of normality. Sam and I agree this has been the best sailing holiday so far, and we're already planning a trip to Croatia next year if we can get COVID insurance. Until then, stay safe.